57, 56, 55, 54, 53, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40, 39, 38, 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello and good afternoon. I had to think then what time it was of the day, but good afternoon to everybody that's tuning in the UK. Anyway, you're probably waking up as I am, pretty tired if you stayed up for it. But we're here. I'm John Scott, obviously for Powered4.tv, and we're going to brush over last night's event, SummerSlam, of course, as we advertised, and I'm really pleased to say we've got the man himself from now Sportseeda Wrestling. He's a writer there. Danny himself, want to bring him on. How you doing, pal? And how tired are you on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being tired the most?
Yeah, I'm currently at 10 at the moment, John. It's been quite a couple of few nights, hasn't it? For obviously Friday night, the big events that happened there, and obviously last night. But generally, I'm doing good, still hyped up, and ready for another night tonight if I make it through.
Mate, that's the thing. I mean, in some respects, I said this beforehand, like, I'm kind of happy that it's now on a Saturday. I wish they'd do more of this, WWE, because it helps us out a little bit more in the UK anyway. But yeah, as you rightly say, we've got a takeover to now sort of go through as well. And like, although there's not as many matches, we kind of know in history that those takeover matches are a lot longer. So that doesn't make up any too much ground for you. But looking forward to that actually tonight. I'd probably say that going into this weekend, I was like more looking towards takeover than I was SummerSlam. I don't know how that's happened given all the cuts as well that we've had recently. But what you going into this, Danny, obviously covering wrestling like you are at the moment, what is your what is your sort of circumstance with WWE? Are you kind of like an avid fan? Have you been sort of watching it closely, enjoying the product, not enjoying the product? What was your sort of excitement level going into last night?
Yeah, well, so the last few months, maybe a few months ago, I sort of wasn't watching as much. I sort of took a little break from it, to be honest, after WrestleMania. Obviously kept an eye on things that were happening, but didn't really go out my way to watch it, so to speak. But sort of recently, obviously getting involved with Sportseeda. Also, I'm doing sort of the SmackDown results every week for Daily DDT. I've sort of been getting back into it now, and obviously watching as regularly as I can. I don't watch Raw as much, but SmackDown, it's been a weekly thing now.
Who does?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with SmackDown, to be honest. I was very excited going into SummerSlam, particularly to see Reigns and Cena and Bianca and Sasha, which obviously plans changed there. But no, I was looking forward to SummerSlam. There were a few things on the card that I wasn't really too bothered about, but generally I was hyped up for it.
Fair enough. Well, without further ado, I'm just going to jump into some of the comments because people have got on really early here. So I'll just jump on to what people... We've got Brett Thomas, the representative of Logan and Jake Paul, of course, that comes on my show regularly. Was so cool to see the biggest draw in combat sports, Logan Paul, in attendance last night. I enjoyed the show. Well, of course you did, because he was there. And I think they shone on him quite heavy. In the pre-show, in the kickoff part. So, yeah, he got a lot of attention and he'll be there Monday. I can't wait. I'm holding my breath on that one. We got Elsa Kano. I fell asleep during the Alexa Eva match. Blimey. I think that was quite early on. So, yeah, fair enough. To be honest, like I fell asleep as well. I think Danny the same. So it's like, you're not alone on these things. And Brett Thomas also responding. That was the second match, wasn't it? Yeah, it might have been quite early on. Carnage Pains here. The show was overall average. It wasn't the feel of organic. It was more just thrown down our throats because of what AEW did Friday. It's an interesting point. Steve Monkman, interesting name. I hated a lot. I hated a lot of it. Just liked more. Back end, yeah, I suppose that's probably where the big marquee matches were. And he's also putting these up for takeover tonight. We've got Honest Beyond Reasonable, 6 out of 10 for me. Nice to see fans back, but some of the matches were dreadful. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, the attendance was crazy. I kind of knew it was like a stadium, but I didn't know it was like that big when like the pictures were coming on and I started to see them. Who would you like to see Logan being in a feud with? Crikey. I'll tell you, I'm afraid I'm going to pass that question to Danny because, I get this every week. So fresh meat here. You can answer this one, Dan.
Well, what is he doing on Raw? Is he he's in with John Morrison and The Miz, isn't he? On the
I think so. And given what they did last night, I'm not going to hold my breath for anything too amazing.
Yeah, I can assume that they're going to take Logan Paul down some way, whether verbally, physically, who knows. And then I'm guessing, similar to what happened with Bad Bunny, they might have somebody come out and partner up with him there. But is he going to get in the ring at some point? Maybe not.
Who knows? Possibly. He's a big fan. I think he'd be better preserved as a heel, in my opinion. Who's the guy who was Britney Spears' ex that was in it involved? What was his name? K-Fed or whatever his face was.
Kevin Federline, yeah. K-Fed.
That's right. Who remembers that? Well, he loved being the bad guy. And you don't get too many celebrities wanting to do it, but I probably think Logan Paul would actually enjoy that. So they probably should give him that. Uncle Gripper. Brock's hair was the highlight. Yeah, it was something else. We'll get to that, I'll tell you. Rambo. So I'm going to admit now, this was just embarrassing. I'm not a fan of modern day wrestling, but this was just beyond. Yeah, he's not a big fan. And also writing, did you stay up for it? I did, but I failed miserably to get through it. Oh, hi, Lewis. How you doing? Lewis Young is saying, are you look forward to take? I am. Yes, I am definitely looking forward to it. And Rachel Carnell says, I'm so tired. Hello, everyone. Yeah, aren't we all? So anyway, you can sit back, chill out. I mean, one of us might fall asleep on screen. So just give us a nudge, give us a few YouTube comments and we'll wake up again. But keep your comments coming. We'll read them throughout the show, no doubt. But thank you for everybody. Don't forget to like and share the video. Right, let's start with this then. This is why we're here. Obviously, the SummerSlam review. WWE, courtesy of them, have sent some pictures through, so I can basically shove them up as we're talking. And the first one I actually have here, Danny, I'm sure this is top of your priority list, was the announcement of the TikTok competition winner. I saw this come through on like my emails or something. I must have signed up for WWE years ago or whatever, and they were like, you've got to enter this competition. And I kept bombarding and spamming Mike Angus. I was like, this is what you should be doing. I'm assuming he never took me up on that, but yeah, I have no idea what this was all about. I even forgot about it until they brought it up. What was the actual prize? Did we know what that was? Was that like some, I don't know, tickets
I think it was
for things,
literally
or what?
just to announce a match? I think that's all it was.
Okay.
I think that's literally all it was. I don't think there was any.
Mate, I'll tell you
anything
what,
else.
if I'd have got there and they say, right, we're going to give you a live mic, I reckon I could have taken that opportunity. You know, I don't think I'd ever go back there, but I could have really live television and everything. I could have made the most of that. But anyway, we start the kickoff. We had, of course, Baron Corbin, the man that has no money, in Vegas. And I was expecting him to do something quite like, I don't know, like him walking around Vegas in the casino or something and throwing his last dollar on a roulette table and just picking it all up the way it's been going. But they didn't do that. And yeah, this was a match with Big E again to get like the case back. Kind of one of those ones like this was one of the matches I really wasn't too fussed about because I just think like, okay, they seriously haven't got much going for Big E at the moment. So this is like something for him to do whilst he's carrying it. But yeah, a little bit, I don't know, a little bit uncreative. Are you enjoying the sort of new Baron Corbin here, homeless and sort of the same attire, even though that shirt does look pretty clean, even though it's probably a bit of a mess on him. Yeah, the whole gimmick thing. I mean, like, I don't know how serious he's taking his character. You know, whether he's doing like the whole 70s, 80s gig of somebody just 24/7 in character, or is he just going home and chilling out? Who knows? Maybe he is dedicated to it. But what's your thoughts on this feud and obviously the match itself, Danny?
Yeah, well, the first point that you made there about, excuse me, about obviously you said about Baron Corbin going around Vegas and having his last chip or something. I thought they could have been quite creative with that, to be honest, and really maybe had a few little different segments through the night, and eventually then he loses the briefcase again somehow. So yeah, they could have had a bit of fun with that, I thought, rather than just put him in a match, loses to Big E, and that being that. I thought as well, you know, they could have teased a little cash in as well through the night at some point, just to keep people sort of interested, especially through that sort of first slog of matches as well.
Yeah.
But generally, yeah, I am enjoying his character at the minute. It's something different. It's you know, it makes you interested. It makes you want to laugh every time he does make an appearance because it's just so ridiculous. But no, I don't know how long that sort of character can go on for, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's keeping him going. And a good thing about Baron Corbin as well, something that I do like about him, every sort of character that he's given, he always seems to do very well with it. Which is what I like. He always seems to stand out and make an impact some way or another. But yeah, the match itself, yeah, wasn't really too interested in them having a match. I'd rather have seen like a few more segments, as you mentioned there, different sort of things happening. And yeah, as you mentioned about Big E, not much happening for it at the minute. Just watching SmackDown these last few weeks, he's literally just shown up for about a few seconds in a backstage segment holding his briefcase and that. But yeah, it is what it was. And yeah, he's now got his briefcase back.
Yeah, there you go. The winner there. Match just going under 7 minutes there. Obviously, I think the fact that it was bumped onto the pre-show, I kind of knew nothing amazing was going to be happening with this one, which was a little bit unfortunate. It's kind of one of those ones where like you do need those matches in between the big matches. But yeah, this one wasn't to be. And then obviously getting on to the main show itself, we had, of course, RK Bro, Matt Riddle. I don't know if his name's back to Matt Riddle or not now. It was Riddle at one point. I have no idea what that's currently at. It changes by the week sometimes. Up against AJ Styles and Omos, of course. Tag team that have been together for a while. I think most people, including me, expected Randy and Riddle to be picking up the victory here. It was a kind of one of those matches that I wasn't like flying off the page thinking it's going to be amazing, even though AJ Styles and Randy are in it. But I actually thought it come off quite well. It sort of served its purpose as an opening match. You need something like that. I was kind of pleased. I was half expecting, I don't know about you, Danny, but they might go with, I don't know, like one of the world championships at the beginning. Like they have a tendency to do that, where like it could have been Goldberg and Lashley or something on the first. which would have been a whole different ball game. But yeah, it was kind of a decent match. Have you enjoyed the chemistry between Randy and Riddle himself? Has that been something you've enjoyed, or are you like? I have to say, it's probably I'm probably a little bit old here, but I can't take Matt Riddle doing this, like, because I know him a little bit as well. Like before he got in, it's like, okay, WWE are really putting a lot of emphasis on this. You know, I'm a guy that's chilled all the time, and I'm getting high. You know, it's like their version, WWE's perception of what that guy is, and it's almost taken from the Rob Van Dam playbook of how he's acting backstage. But I mean, at least he's doing something. At least he's kind of involved somewhere with somebody like Randy Orton. So you can't say he's sort of like lost in the shuffle at the minute. But how's it been for you, my friend?
Yeah, he's not really my sort of vibe, is Riddle. I will be honest there. But I'm just happy, like you say, to see somebody like that coming through, somebody different. And obviously Randy's somewhat taking him under his wing at the moment by giving him a huge rub now, being tag team champions, of course. It's obviously great to see Randy helping out the guys coming through as well. But yeah, it's not my sort of thing, the whole Riddle gimmick. But yeah, happy to see some new champions. I think AJ and Omos have had them a little while now. And as from what I've been seeing everywhere, the fans wanted this to happen as well. So as you say, an okay opener to give the fans a good start.
Yeah, again, not that long. I mean, just under 7 minutes. Didn't really need to be. I kind of wasn't like thinking it was too short or anything like that. I felt like everybody done what they were going to. I could probably see, because WWE are never that high up on tag teams, and this is probably one of the only times where we've had like two decent tag teams against each other, like twice in one night. Like I haven't seen that for ages now, where one of them's not been bumped off onto the pre-show or something. But if history is anything to go by, I would say that I'm a little bit worried that we might see more of these matches until they've run out of people, because they do have a tendency to just put people together, you know, and that's how they come about with WWE. But yeah, not too bad. Overall, pretty decent, solid opener. Then we get to this. Alexa Bliss. Yeah, I think the less I say about this, the better. I have to say, going into this, I've not really watched any or much of this build up, and I've only been told about it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try and be open-minded. I'm going to try and suspend my disbelief up to a certain point. I'm just going to try and watch it as a fan and not overlook things. But my God, it was so difficult, Danny. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but it was like, I don't know, it was borderline like, crikey, this is so... It's like one of those times you don't want to invite a friend round who doesn't watch wrestling for this event and put that match on. It's like when that match comes on, mate, let's go and make a cup of tea. Let's get that pizza. Let's just go and get in out of Christ's sake. Because this is one of those ones where you're like, I don't know, she's hitting... Even Marie's hitting her with the doll, and then she suddenly screams, and oh my goodness, it was quite something.
The doll. Yes.
What did you make of this? Is there any positives to this?
Well, let's just say, if I was watching this on record, I would have fast forwarded it straight away.
Fair enough.
Not something that I'm particularly keen on seeing. And yeah, I just don't really know where that's going to go in the end, to be honest. Obviously, Alexa's gimmick's been picked up for him. Obviously, the Fiend, and now she's got Lily the doll. It's just, yeah. And obviously, it's even Marie. You know, being honest, she's not the best in the ring either. Yeah, it was one I just wanted to skip, to be honest. It wasn't appealing to me. But as you mentioned before, it was something that I haven't really taken interest in on Raw. Again, if I saw that, I'd just probably skip past it and not really take much notice. But yeah, glad it was over fairly swiftly.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say it was under 4 minutes, so they obviously knew going in, like, just get it over and done with, for God's sake. It's more about the sort of entrance and theatricality than anything else with that. But it's not good. That's the problem. You can get away with doing stuff like that. I know people will always harp on at me and they'll go, but what about Papa Shango back in the day and stuff like that? And we did have silly stuff, don't get me wrong, but it was done a lot better than what it is. It was thought out like miles in advance where they knew where they kind of knew the end result. I think with this, it's like they tried to test the waters. They see what's selling, what isn't, and they just sort of play it by ear a little bit for me. The next,
I think they put the doll on sale this weekend or something, didn't they, to see how well that was going to do in there. So it'd be interesting to see how many they sold.
Who wants one of these?
I think Stewie Palmer said he wanted one.
I will send him one on courtesy of Power4.tv. I will send it. I wonder how much are they going for? That's what I want to know. How much are they getting out of this for these dolls? Knowing WWE. But if it's anything like Alexa Bliss's cameo, which was $600, then I'll be worried. We're going in that bracket. But next up, we've got, of course, Sheamus up against Damian Priest. Sheamus, I kind of feel for him because they have given him crap basically for a while. They really haven't done too much with him. I think I've always rated Sheamus. I think he's a steady worker. He's great for the company. Yeah. He's always been there when they've needed him. And I don't think he's one of those guys that's sort of complaining all the time. And I think like that's probably not to his best, because if he was, he might maybe be in more better prominent places. But I think he's just a WWE lifer, if I'm honest. I think he's got that about him. Obviously, very early on in his career, that's where his height was, right at the beginning. But this match, I mean, obviously he's been champion for a while. I just don't think they've really done an awful lot with him that's been any good. I don't think it's been very memorable. At least, I suppose, with the result, I can kind of see why they've done it, and it gives somebody else a little turn with the belt. The problem for me, Danny, I don't know how you feel about this, but the way the belts are used now, it's almost like they expect the belt to make the wrestler rather than the wrestler making the belt. And I always think it should be the wrestler making the belt. I think sometimes they think, if we give him this, that's it. They'll be there. But what did you make of this match, my friend?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good match. And as you mentioned there about Sheamus, he's just a consistent guy, isn't he? Just generally in the ring, and always puts on some great, solid, hard-hitting fights, which is always good to see. But yeah, I'm also quite happy that we've got somebody new as champion, especially someone that has obviously come through NXT as well. I know there's been a lot of talk about NXT recently, not obviously going through a few changes and things like that. So it's nice to see that somebody who's come through the ranks there is now winning a championship on the big stage. But yeah, I thought it did what it did. Both guys put in a good performance, and interested to see what comes next for Damian Priest.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I don't know really what his potential will be. I don't know what Vince kind of thinks of a guy like him, but I'm guessing he's more that side of what Vince would see a superstar in, as he calls it, and it might work out best for him. I thought it was a decent match. No real problems. The only problem, I'll say this now, is like with the whole show, and I said this off air, is I felt like the pacing of it was a little bit off. I feel like some of the matches would have been better placed in different positions. We might be talking about them a little bit differently, but no, it is what it is. So on that one, next, of course, we had the other tag team match. So going back to back, and obviously we had the Mysterios, Ray and Dominic up against, of course, the Usos, which again, like I'll say this again, like tag team wrestling isn't really a major thing in WWE, but here we have 4 decent teams and they were all against each other. So I can't really complain too much about it. But the build, I'd say, was probably better than some of what we're going to get on the payoffs, I feel, with some of these. I mean, I don't know, but obviously the Mysterios wasn't the time for them to get it quite yet. I don't know where they're going to go with that. People speculating there, but yeah, I think between both of them, I'd probably say I kind of enjoyed this a little bit more, only because of the sort of storyline going into it and how that's been played out. I think it's been pretty decent with regards to that. Obviously, Matt, this one just shy of just over 10 minutes. Sorry, but yeah, pretty decent. There was lots of good action in it. I know for obviously Dominic, you forget how long he's been in it now, because obviously he was in the whole pandemic era. He was actually there last SummerSlam as well, but you forget that. But it's been such a a while. But these are two, obviously Ray and Dom. They've kept these together. Most people think, right, Dom should turn on his dad and sort him out. That's what's going to happen. But I don't want to see that just yet. I would much rather they continue like more progressive storyline between them, and don't necessarily have to be a tag team to do that either. But what was your take of this match, my friend?
Yeah, no, like you mentioned about the sort of build up to it, I think it's been pretty good, to be honest. And we've seen some great matches as well between sort of the teams in singles matches. And it was this past Friday, Rey Mysterio, just absolutely fantastic. I just can't believe just how much he can still do what he looked like he did 20 years ago, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. But yeah, no, two obviously quality tag teams, and I thought it was a decent match. And you mentioned there about the Dom Rey Mysterio thing, Dominic turning on Rey Mysterio at some point. You sort of pick up on the sort of things that Rey keeps telling him, to watch his back and to be careful, all this sort of thing. You think someday that Dom's just going to snap and say, you know what, I'm sick of you telling me what to do. But yeah, like you said, I'd like to see that play out a bit more. Maybe we see something like that at WrestleMania next year after giving it a little while to sort of keep moving forward. But yeah, like we say, two great tag teams. You can't really go wrong there with them in a match.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Usos winning the match, obviously with the belts there at the end. No real problems with that for me on that one. Then we get this really bizarre part of the show. We have King Nakamura coming out doing his best impressions of a sort of mix between Michael Jackson and like an Elvis attire going on right here now. It's 1 minute he was wearing like a Flash Funk attire not too long ago. Now he's in this stuff. I'm it's kind of one of those things. I smile, but I smile with anger because like I was such a big Nakamura fan from New Japan days, and I just remember how it's very difficult to put it back into people's minds how hot he was when he was probably more bigger than what AJ was as a free agent at the same time. They were both available. Like Nakamura was just like, can we get this guy in? Can we get him over? He'll fit so perfectly. His character, strong style. Oh, goodness me. I don't know where that's gone now. But yeah, I really don't say those words with Nakamura at the moment. But this was very bizarre. This shot here was probably the best shot of the night. Pat McAfee absolutely enjoying himself. One thing whilst he's on this picture is I have actually really enjoyed him as a play-by-play. I know for some people he really rubs people up the wrong way. Where do you stand with Pat McAfee, Danny?
I think he's a breath of fresh air, to be honest. He sort of does and says things that sort of the fans are thinking at times. And I think he's just been given this opportunity just to go out there, be yourself, I think, and that comes across very well on television. And it doesn't seem very forced either, if you know what I mean. Normally with color commentators, things like that, they're very sort of the same way. But for him, it just seems like it comes naturally and he just delivers what he wants to deliver. And I think Michael Cole's even said it himself that he sort of refreshed, rejuvenated his sort of career on the announce desk. So I'm all for Pat McAfee, and I'm all for him dancing on the announce table when he needs to.
Absolutely. There you go. And just to add something, he's more like what I'd say Jesse Ventura was. When he just used to be blatantly honest through what was going on, and he was much more logical. But with McAfee, I've heard him say things like, I know Michael Cole gets really excited about he's going to cover him and he'll get the win, and he's just like, no, he wasn't. You're not going to get it then. It's just, and I think that's kind of it's nice because it doesn't sound like anybody's down his kind of earpiece telling him what to say all the time. It can be a little bit more off the cuff, which is kind of what we want. My dream team would have been someone like him and say Mauro Ranallo or something like that would have been pretty cool. For sure. Then we get this coming out. We get This lady here, she's of course been the gold medalist from Tokyo Games. The only thing I was thinking as she was coming out was this. There was lots of this going on, tagging everyone as we're going down. Like, oh my goodness, I wish she's gonna it'll take forever. They'll never get in there. But they gave them the moment. Kind of cool for WWE to do this. They don't always do it. I've got to be honest with you. Like, I've seen, American athletes perform well in the Olympics before. And we don't ever see them turn up, especially like a SummerSlam. So this was kind of cool. I got a feeling that whilst they were there, somebody backstage would have been like, right, can we get something signed up in advance, just where you want to be? I mean, he's 21, I believe, like crazy athlete. There's going to be a lot of people touting for him with whatever he wants to do next. Of course, I mean, sky's the limit. He could potentially go to MMA. It's lots of stuff he could do. So I got that feeling, the fact that he was there and that she was there, like, oh, there's something more to it here. But different for WWE in that sense. Now we get to, of course, this is the two halves of the old three-man band. Of course, they're back with each other. I think for us in the UK, Danny, there has to be a little bit of sadness when we think back to last year's WrestleMania with Drew being the champion inside the Performance Center, covered by walls and a fan at the top spinning around every time you look up. To see him now in front of fans at last, and kind of like he's kind of where he was before all that, before COVID hit, which is such a shame, before the Royal Rumble. It does seem like he's had to take a few steps back here for the time being. I'm glad he picked up the victory, because that would have been really the icing on the cake. But it's good that he's got it there. He's got that bloody great sword in his hand. Wonder how long that'll be used as before it's used as a weapon or some sort of heel move. It was quite a hard hitting match. I thought they were like proper kind of laying it in thick with each other. I think they obviously know each other quite well. I think they would have probably been able to sort of get away with a little bit more. Someone like Jinder Mahal, for me, he's very, I do think he's good when they back him, but they haven't done that for ages. And so this match, for me, it feels like such a step down for Drew McIntyre to be in this kind of a one-on-one match. I mean, it's almost like you could argue, would it be better for him not to be there at the moment until they've got stuff for him? Does it freshen him up more? Because the more we see him against this type of opponent, no disrespect to Jinder, but I kind of feel like perception and what Vince McMahon thinks of, his potential star power basically goes down more and more. What did you think about this? And also, what do you think about where he is at the moment in terms of that pecking order?
Yeah, it is a shame that he's not where he was sort of positioned, as you mentioned there, sort of last year. And obviously with no crowds being there, it was just an absolute shame to see Drew have that run without people cheering him on, or even to have the fans, get behind him in that sense. The match itself, I think it was a good match. Like you said, they're glad that Drew actually got the win in the end, and it wasn't, like you say, another blow to his current state on the roster. It's two guys that, of course, have been released in the past, and they've sort of worked their way back to WWE and got to where they are now. But I'm hoping in the future that we do see Drew sort of rise up again. He's just a phenomenal talent, isn't he? And you can't knock or doubt that he's going to move forward again eventually. And I'm hoping they do try and do something probably next year now in the UK, where it is a sort of big moment for him. Yeah. I know people have been suggesting things that obviously SummerSlam at Wembley next year, with it being the anniversary of the event. I mean, that could be massive in a sense in that way. But yeah, it is a shame, and I'd like to see him be further up the card. But I guess he just has to bide his time at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of those things. Not a long match either, but I think, like I say, it wasn't too bad. This would have, for me, having in hindsight, this would have probably, the way they booked it and everything, would have maybe made more impact, like going on first. Like this would have been one of those ones, like Drew's come out, dominated for 5 minutes and gone back type of thing, like hard hitting. But I think at this position in the night, I think fans are like, oh yes, it's getting to that halfway point where it's like, blimey, this is long. Anyway, we move on. We get the Raw Women's title now. We got Nikki Ash, Charlotte and Rhea. This very bizarre 50-50 booking all the way up to this. I'd looked at some stats that someone had sent to me, and it really was, I could not believe it. But a lot of people were kind of a little bit thrown by this result. I think there's been so much speculation. You know, Charlotte, her dad, you know, he's over there. Andrade's at AEW. She's going to be the next one. But I kind of got a feeling that with Charlotte, I think that even Ric Flair, her dad, would probably say that her kind of legacy probably at this stage is still very much with WWE, because if I'm honest, as good as AEW's been, their women's division isn't really on fire. And I think if Charlotte was to go there, yes, that would help them, but it certainly wouldn't help Charlotte because she wouldn't really have that many great matches or opponents to begin with. And I think there's more but chances of that in WWE still. So I think AEW still have a little bit of work to do for anything like that. I don't think Charlotte's going to be leaving anytime soon, personally, regardless. But triple threat match. Of course, Rhea Ripley involved. What have you made of this build towards this match and the match itself, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted a different outcome. I wanted to see maybe Nikki go a bit further, have a few more weeks just to see where she can go with the championship. And I know people, I've been seeing sort of comments online, you know, they're a bit fed up seeing Charlotte again as the champion, but obviously the building up for her being the greatest women's champion ever, aren't they, with even catching up to her dad at this point, with how many reigns that she's had. But yeah, it wasn't one I was really invested in, to be honest. Obviously I've enjoyed seeing Nikki cash in Money in the Bank, things like that, but just generally it wasn't one I could get into, to be honest, John.
No, yeah, it was a bit of a hard watch. Obviously some action shots here, but yeah, I mean, if it was 1-on-1, I think I could have enjoyed it a little bit more. I'm not a massive fan of triple threat matches in general. I just think there's always one person that sort of dilutes all three of them, you know, rather than sort of sharing it equal. And this was a bit like that. But yeah, for me, the in terms of the result winner, I know it's rubbed people up quite the wrong way with stuff. The thing is with it, I mean, she's by far one of the best there, male or female, in my opinion, just the way she carries herself, because she actually looks like legit. She doesn't look like she's playing a wrestler. She actually looks like she is a wrestler. There's not many times that's happening in sort of recent wrestling. So I do enjoy her in that regard. However, the problem is that belt, it's like it's sort of stuck to her at the moment. And it's not that she's even holding on to it that long, because as you say, she's had so many reigns. And I think that's half the problem. I think what she really needs more than anything, I mean, they've got 2 belts. This is a time where we're flooded with belts, so there should be no excuse for it. But they would do better to actually kind of give her a longer run, stop having it stop-start all the time and trying to build somebody else. I mean, that's the ultimate problem, I think, is who's that next person going to come up, that female that's going to be the sort of quote-unquote on par with her. We thought Rhea Ripley for a while, but now it's like, that's gone to bits after this. So they're going to have to do a good job of building her up again, really. But yeah, kind of not my favorite type of match. Not the worst triple threat, but I certainly wasn't into it. Just given the whole 50-50 booking that they've done up towards it, it went on just up to 13 minutes. Like I say, not overly stimulating for me. Then we get, of course, a throwback to the Attitude Era here, Danny. For the likes of me, this was pretty cool. Seeing, of course, Edge coming out with the Brood music to begin with. I thought that was pretty cool. Something they've not really tapped into, I don't ever believe, since this moment. I don't really think they've done that too much, especially with Edge. So that was kind of cool. I kind of wish now that, although did make some sense. I kind of wish they might have left this for something else, like I don't know, like another feud where he might have really. This could have been utilized even better, but nonetheless, I think it was cool. I'm sure people now will be thinking, let's just have him in the Brood all together. You know, let's let him do that now. Which of course is a wonderful idea, but you can never ever, as you know as well as I do, Danny, whenever they try to bring back those great creations, they're never the same again. Especially in the PG era as well. It's just not the same. So I would sort of not do that to tarnish anything of our good memories. But for a one-off kind of thing like this, I kind of enjoyed it. Edge and Seth Rollins, obviously, they've had like some mammoth long matches in the past. I was kind of fearing the worst because I'm not always a massive Seth Rollins fan. As crazy as that sounds, I've never really been massive on him. So to go into this, obviously, these two have had like a very back and forth, long-term story sort of build with one another. Some of the stuff's been good, some of it a little bit flaky. I thought the match was fairly good. I mean, I don't know where it ranks in their matches between themselves. I'd certainly put it above the WrestleMania one that just seemed to, what was that going on and on, But yeah, it was decent. What did you make of it, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I've absolutely loved the build for it. Apart from up until the gunk dropped down on Rollins on Friday, I thought everything was so personal, so intense. It made you up for it for this big, huge dream match, and then it sort of got a bit silly, if you know what I mean. Which I didn't really. Who's it? Oh, it's SP3. Hey,
it is SP3. He's watching.
Nice
How you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you, SP3. But yeah, up until that point when the gunk dropped, I thought it was leading into something quite intense, something that you just must see. But then, yeah, it got a little bit silly in that respect. But I can overlook that because I think the promos have been absolutely fantastic. And as you said, to the fact that they've alluded back to 2014 with the whole he was going to stomp him and everything there, I think that's a cool way that they brought that back round to now. And obviously two great performers. If you're not a big fan of Rollins, like Johnny's, I think he's a great performer. And I thought it was a fantastic match overall. And obviously great to see Edge again in the ring, putting it all on the line. And I was fairly happy with it.
Yeah, and obviously, like you say, there are not that many feuds in WWE where they go back that far, which is kind of refreshing. Like it gives that WWE fan, like sometimes you never get rewarded for being a long-time WWE fan because they just forget things and you have to just move on. But I like the fact they've gone back and, they've picked out parts which, absolutely makes sense for them to do that. And yeah, it brings more to it, I think. But obviously, Edge picking up the win there on that one. Pretty decent. Like you say, I just wonder now with Edge, like where is his position now with the company? Like how far do they put him back in again? I got a feeling that there's probably one more last sort of big hurrah for him at some point. I'm not sure what that will be, but I think that's certainly the way they're booking him at the moment. It seems like they kind of do have a lot of stuff going on and sort of things in mind for him as we go forward for his stuff. Now, following this, Danny, we get another crazy, what I would call a typical WWE sort of bad comedy, if anything, with this stuff. I don't know what you think about it, but the whole Miz and Morrison and Xavier Woods coming out, what a moment that was. I watched it back earlier and I thought, blimey, even the fans don't. It was so quiet. It was like, what are we doing here with this stuff? Yeah. Like, is this really worth having on the show? But what did you make of that little segment there?
Yeah, I just thought it was, like you mentioned there, just positioned terribly at the wrong time. And it was just to fill up a few minutes, wasn't it, really? Just to get those guys a bit of screen time, in particular, obviously, with the thing happening on Raw on Monday. But yeah, another one of those things I wasn't really too fussed about, to be honest, and would happily skip that in the future.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Now, I don't know if I've kind of gone over a match here. I've missed out something with the female match here. I'm trying to think where the Becky match was. Have I gone past that? I can't tell. Yes, I have. So let's go back to. I thought I had because it's the way I positioned the photos. Apologies if anybody's there. Like, no, he's not talking about him. It is. It's been a long night. But no, let's go back to that. Obviously, one of the biggest pops of the night for sure. Certainly was rumored in the air. Very reactionary as well, I feel, by WWE. Just to sort of sum up, I kind of feel like WWE have kind of maybe dealt their hand too early here, because I do feel this is a little bit reactional. Given what we got at the end of the show as well, even more. But the fact that she's come back, she's not only come back, but she's, they've had her go into the match, and she's now picking up the belt. I do think it was good. I think it was a great moment and everything. And the pop was good. I know people are debating online ridiculously at the moment. CM Punk, it was miles better and all the rest of it. But you can't judge, because stadiums and arenas are totally different things. Like, although it didn't sound as loud, if you're in a stadium and open, the sound travels up. In an arena AEW is in, the acoustics would have been miles better. I also kind of think they secretly toned down CM Punk's music so that you could hear a lot of the audience chants. I do think they did that. Not saying it wasn't a huge, and it was much more emotional, that one, than Becky's, because Becky's only been gone not that long, and it's no big deal. But it's very hard to sort of judge who got the biggest one. It's kind of a ridiculous debate, really. But it was a nice moment to see her back. Obviously, she still has that star power, which is obviously what WWE were hoping for. The commentators, you could tell Vince must have been on the end, like, tell everyone she's one of the biggest stars in the world. They really tried to get that over. But yeah, nice moment. What did you think about not just her coming back, Danny, but also what they had her doing, and obviously the result at the end of this? Because we should point out that this was not the scheduled match at all. WWE do this a lot. When things like this happen and one of them's injured or something, rather than go the way you think, oh, they'll play it safe, they'll just have, some sort of schmaltz ending or whatever, and they'll get to that match a month down the line or 2 months. They always seem to go like, no, we're going to totally go away from that now, and this is it. Becky suddenly got it. What did you make of that creative?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, there was things in the air about Bianca and Sasha wasn't going to happen as planned, and I was expecting something to be mentioned on SmackDown, but it never did. They just advertised it as normal. Obviously, not too sure what has actually sort of happened there. Yeah, it was a good return. I don't know if it was a reactionary return from what's obviously been happening on AEW's side of things. I don't know if they've pressed that sort of panic button and thought, right, we need to sort of do this now. We're in a position where this match isn't happening. Let's pull the trigger now. But I think the biggest disappointment of all, even though it was great to see Becky back in the ring, was just how she defeated Bianca Belair within was it 10 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that?
Mate, WrestleMania might as well be an afterthought after seeing this, because, yeah, I'm with you. That was shocking. As big as Becky is, like, come on, there's got to be a better way of doing it, surely, that you can protect Bianca. That surely, if the creative was going to be as predicted, it wouldn't have gone like that. I'm pretty sure of it. Even if she'd have lost, it wouldn't have been as quick as that. So, very disappointing for her, I feel, in all this. And, I thought that WWE were going to put all their eggs in one basket. I really thought they were going to push Bianca even further for another 6 months and really establish her. Does Becky need the belt right now? Probably not. I think her return would have been big enough as it is. The chase is often better than the actual getting the actual thing at the end. I kind of feel this might be the same. Also, only another thing to add, it would have been even cooler if there was a thing with Charlotte. I mean, it's been in Charlotte's matches that we keep getting those chants. I kind of feel like they might have just wasted, just even if it was for one night, that opportunity just for a return, just to have her come out and do something. But yeah, it's very short. What do you see WWE doing in the future now with Becky? Because also they got Becky, they got Charlotte. They're obviously separate. You know, they are well and truly, like, it seems like if there's a ladder, that there's a massive gap in between that to the next lot. Where do they go next for their sort of up and coming opponents, given the way they're both champions themselves?
Yeah, I mean, just back to the point about Bianca losing so quickly. Like you said, I thought that would have gone on a lot longer than just a quick end after 10 seconds, especially, I mean, from watching SmackDown sort of every week recently, she's been one of the sort of biggest stars on it by far. So yeah, it is a bit upsetting to see, to be honest, that they've just treated her like that. You know, out you go, you're going to lose 10 seconds to Becky. Like you said, it didn't even need it. It didn't even need it.
Yeah.
And if they were going to have her win, surely it could have gone on a bit longer. They could have cut the silly Morris and Miz segment off and just let them, at least Bianca, have a bit of a go and then go from there. But yeah, I think moving forward, I think Bianca will challenge her again for this. I think that'll certainly still be ongoing. I don't think that'll be it, if you know what I mean. After that, I think there will be a few matches between them down the line now. I'm guessing they might go down some route that maybe Bianca wasn't prepared or something like that for this match. She, of course, was facing Sasha, then it was Carmella, and then it's Becky. God,
I forgot about Carmella part, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was just bizarre. I couldn't work out why they went down that route. And I can certainly understand a lot of people's frustrations and sadness as to how it went down, to be honest. But as for Charlotte, yeah, you mentioned before, there's not really anybody on that top of the ladder that could really challenge her. And this is where you think, well, if they keep people moving forward, keep their momentum going, then they can start to climb that ladder. But it just doesn't end that way, and eventually it just ends up back with them and back to square one, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, bit disappointing in that as you. Very surprised, happy, and then like, oh my God, at the end of it, I was just like, no, don't do it just yet. But there you go. They've made that. Moving on, we get a match that I certainly wasn't too interested in going into this, since it was sort of Bill Goldberg returning, coming back. Our friends over at Games and Graps described this match as the two baldies going against each other. Winner gets a wig. Well, that certainly didn't happen at the end of this match, although maybe I wish it had done. But yeah, this is one of those times where it's like, I know people will harp on that Bill Goldberg does have reach, does still bring something, and I'm sure he does, but this is not something that I would have seen back in the late 90s, early 2000s at the peak time. You certainly wouldn't have got Ultimate Warrior coming back to face the then champions like The Rock, Triple H, and Steve Austin. They would have been down the mid-card, as we did see Warrior back at 12 once, and he faced Triple H, which was nowhere near the top. But now when these guys come back, they get carte blanche. They get like the biggest matches. It was only early this year we saw Bill Goldberg as well. We're expecting him back in Saudi, I believe, as well. That's another place where the Prince is obviously a bit of a fan of him. So he's got that well set up. I mean, like we said off air, Danny, I feel like Bill Goldberg's bank account is doing very well in his 50s.
Very, very well.
Maybe better than some of his 40s, that's for sure, because he wasn't really active. So, yeah, he looked good. I mean, he always looks fantastic, and he doesn't look like a guy that you don't feel like, oh, that's embarrassing now, him coming out at his age. No, he looks jacked and juice to the gills and whatnot. But at the same time, against Bobby Lashley, should he be really facing him of all people? Or should we be seeing people that have been more active on the roster? I know that there's the name power, and I get that, but Bill Goldberg really, he hasn't exactly been on an awesome run either, even when he does come back of late. Although we have seen him destroy the likes of the Fiend and stuff like that at the most odd, random times. It's not as if this is a guy that should just earn a title shot, just because he returns, basically. But what did you make of this? And obviously it was a curious ending. We had the referee basically ultimately stopping the match. We had his son involved as well. They tried to sort of play smoke and mirrors with this a little bit, I feel, but I think it sort of come across better on paper than it did in the practical sense. What did you make of it?
Yeah, first of all, like you mentioned there, it's it's interesting that in terms of storyline wise, that Goldberg can just come back and demand a title match and get it. I don't think that should really be a thing that should happen. But on the flip side of that, I remember when he did come back, so I did an article about Goldberg just after he came back. And I think that night, John Cena also returned as well on Raw. Yep. And Goldberg's return received more sort of views and things on YouTube than John Cena's return did. Which obviously is surprising in itself, but it shows again why they do these things, because it's going to bring attention to their product. And obviously this being a huge SummerSlam, they've stacked it up as much as they could. And obviously Goldberg's still active. They've found a way for him to get on the show. But generally, I'd like to see, Bobby Lashley face somebody else who's, on the roster, another big talent that's coming through. But then again, who would be that person to step up on such a big night? And as for how the match went, it was different. Not really seen anything like that before, where the referees just called it off. Maybe the odd occasion here and there, but I suppose again it did protect Goldberg in that sense, and it allowed it to sort of go on a bit longer than maybe we've seen Goldberg have matches in the past. And as you mentioned there, we'll probably see a rematch down the line in Saudi, as you said there, with the Prince being a big fan. But overall, it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't one you'd go back and watch in a hurry. But it just did the job, I suppose, to go on to the next phase of their story, I guess.
Are you surprised, just to finish up on that match, that WWE have kind of suddenly invested so much in Bobby Lashley, given, cracky, I remember a year ago, whatever it was, that whole ridiculous stuff with Lana. The worst casting I could ever imagine, to put someone like Bobby Lashley in that sort of storyline. It was dreadful. I've seen, since Bobby's come back, to be honest with you, they've not really dealt with him well. I remember when he first come back and he'd done that shocking interview with Renee, where he was talking about his sisters and helping them out, and then that big grin at the end. And I thought it was going to be a genuine heel turn. It wasn't. It was serious. I could not believe that was their way of trying to get this guy over. And I thought, they wouldn't have Brock Lesnar doing something stupid like that. Like, why do they do it with Bobby? But finally, it looks like more Bobby from sort of the times I remember him at Impact and TNA, where I thought he'd done some of his best work. I'm kind of happy he's where he is. I'm just surprised that it's kind of come now. Like, certainly with a match against Drew at WrestleMania, I certainly wasn't expecting that result. And they have sort of invested in him. I think it's pretty clear we know that Roman is their guy, but Bobby Lashley is certainly, in terms of Raw anyway, he is the man there. But he doesn't feel yet like a top star. It still feels like he's just carrying it, and even though he's had it for a while now, but he seriously, I think this is probably why they tried to bring Goldberg in, is like, oh, if we get him over against Goldberg, that helps. But then this kind of way of doing it, it's not exactly great. It wasn't clean, really. It wasn't, do you know what I mean? It wasn't really passing a torch. So I do feel like for Bobby Lashley to really cement it, he's going to need better established opponents than what he's been fed so far. But are you surprised they've gone with him? Because there was a time where I thought he'll never get that championship, opportunity.
Yeah, there were some questionable things happening. His in his past there, wasn't there, last few years or so? But
Mhm.
I think he's always been a big star, hasn't he? Even when he first broke out in
Mhm.
sort of 2004, 2005, you could
Yeah.
see there and then that he was going to be a big deal. And it was
Mhm.
sad to see him leave, and then obviously him turning up at Impact, like you said, he was
Mhm.
unbelievable on there. But yeah, he's always been a big star, and I can see why WWE have gone in that direction. Now, I think they have always seen him as a big star, but maybe wanted him to, I don't know, in some weird way try and prove himself again on the roster by doing all these silly things. But no, he's one of the best that they've got, who's still active and
Yeah.
full time. And yeah, I certainly hope it does continue. And like you say, get some good opponents for him.
Yeah, that's what he needs. He just needs better sort of opponents, and it needs to be. Even though he's a heel, like Roman. If you look at the way he's booked, he wins clean. I mean, he does like they don't do the whole heel thing with him. It's a bit like the Brock booking with Heyman. They don't have the referee or the manager always interfering and stuff like that. So it's a different way of doing it. But we'll see where that goes. Obviously, this leads us to our main event. John Cena coming back with not the JBL hairstyle that I'm been used to seeing him in under that hat, which is just I hate it. And this time it seems like there was moments in the match where you looked at John Cena, he was doing this a lot, trying to get that bit of ball patch covered up. You know what I mean? Like get that sorted out. But here he was, liked the T-shirt, throw back there to Super Mario, of course, that he came out in more merch to sell whilst he's here. Why not? We know he's booked. I think SP3 said he's booked for like Madison Square Garden yet. So I think he's going to be about. I think he's certainly going to be around for a little bit longer before we see him go. But yeah, a lot of people last night were speculating because Ric Flair has now left WWE and he's got that 16-time record that they would do what they've done to Demolition and scrap that record in an instant, get John Cena to win it, and that's it. We'll never mention Ric Flair again. And I didn't really think, to be honest with you, they would go that far. I do think, even though Ric Flair's left, I feel they have a good enough relationship between him and Triple H. Enough so that anything like that, just for the sake of having somebody sort of take that record over, I don't think that would have had any impact at all. I've got to say, I watched this match back again, Danny, this morning, and it's always different when you don't watch it live because you kind of look at things like through different eyes, almost like a different lens. I felt John Cena, and I've always been a massive fan of John Cena, like his work, but some of his facials and everything was very over the top, very kind of cartoonish, and I don't ever remember him being as crazy as what I saw last night. Like there were moments where it's like, oh, there's an opportunity, and it's kind of what I call the Hogan facials, where he looks out and it's almost as if he's asking a fan, should I go and do it? Of course, you know, what are they going to go? No, don't. Of course they're not. So yeah, he does that. You know, he's trying to get roll-ups, but there was a lot of that, and I felt John Cena, for whatever reason, maybe it was just ring rust, looked a little bit off the pace. You could certainly, I felt Roman, you can tell he's improved his game, because the last time these two wrestled, I was almost the other way round. I would have said John Cena was carrying the whole thing, but Roman's new character, the way he is at the moment, I think a lot of influence from Heyman, the way he presents himself, has certainly rubbed off in a good way. This was the match, Danny, I think most of all, most people were anticipating. This was one that they wanted to see, even though we've seen it in the past. I think it was like still a box office match. What was your take from this, and the sort of the way the match went? And did you see anything that I did with John Cena, or was that just me?
No, I certainly saw that as well. Definitely, it was a bit different than what we've probably been accustomed to. Or like you say, maybe it's because it's been that long. We've not noticed that before. But yeah, I enjoyed the match. Yeah, really, really solid. And as you say, with them now, obviously being when was the last match? Was it about 4 or 5 years now they had?
Yeah, I don't know if it was that long, but they were kind of like shooting off the hip at one another, because John Cena was kind of like saying some sort of real facts about Roman Reigns and how he'd been thrown down everybody's throats like we all kind of thought at the time. But obviously different things now. Obviously with Roman being a heel, I say this all the time, he's more over than he's ever been in his life. Being a heel, fans love him now. Of course, he's cool. But it took all that time. If I was WWE and this is the guy, I certainly wouldn't be. I wouldn't position him as a babyface at all. I'd say keep as he is, because you'll probably sell more doing what he's doing now. If you're going to have him as a heel, you have him how he was as a face. Just come out smiling, doesn't seem to react even when people are booing him, and just smiles all the time. I mean, that winds people up more. So it's a good. I think the result was right. I did not expect John Cena to be winning this. I mean, Roman, what is it? Last year, Roman showed back up again. He's kept this up now, and it's been a very good year. Obviously, Roman is probably one of the few successful stories that WWE have been able to tell from an arc point of view, and I've actually enjoyed it. I do think there's lots there. Lots of rumors, of course, where it's going to go next. Obviously, his cousin is a big thing. A lot of people speculating about that. But before we get to obviously what we saw after the match, Danny, what was your take? Did you have any I'm guessing you, like me, wasn't thinking John Cena was just going to sneak a 17-time championship win and there'd be another rematch down the line or something?
No, I didn't think he'd do it on this night in particular. I think he was simply there to obviously give Reigns the shine even more and to continue his run. I thought they both put in a great match. Obviously, Reigns, the dynamic now is just completely different than what it was before, which made it even more better, I think, than their sort of first clash that they had. But yeah, there wasn't really a thought that Cena would win it. I think that would be saved for something like a WrestleMania, to be honest, if that was to ever happen. But no, it was good and the right result in the end, definitely.
Great shot here of Paul Heyman. Tell you what, if there's anyone that does really good stuff, like just the small subtleties, it's always him. And it's shots like that the WWE cameras don't always pick up. Stuff like that, but yeah, he's great in that role. And then of course, we think you start to see some fans pouring out, and you're thinking, blimey, they're holding off that button for a bit. I'm sure they're like, oh, let's get it sorted quick before they all go. We obviously see Brock Lesnar return, Danny, and slight speculation about it. Although I would have 9 times out of 10, if you said Brock's coming back, I would have always said Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. I would not have thought at the end of a SummerSlam show they put a guy on, because it's almost like progressing storylines on a huge event like SummerSlam. I haven't seen that for a long time, but Brock Lesnar shows up. Of course, he's got a man bun everyone's going on about. He's got the beard. I've seen that because he was on that meat cutting program recently. But you know what? This is how Brock Lesnar lives his life. He lives in a freaking compound. He doesn't see people at the best of times. I know Paul Heyman's made lots of comments. He doesn't even have internet or Wi-Fi, and he has to drive out of his compound to make phone calls. So he's very secluded. If anyone knows how to live in a pandemic, it's Brock Lesnar. Go to him. But yeah, he's back now. Obviously, a little bit of a different look for Brock Lesnar for sure. Coming out, was you expecting, it's been harped on about, and I've said about it would be really good because of the Heyman dynamic, but the way they've done it, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a rush. I feel like it's confusing. Like, we're supposed to they're looking at each other. I'm like, okay, is there no dialogue going to happen? No, of course there isn't. It's just like from Heyman, like, what are you doing here kind of thing. I kind of found it a little bit underwhelming. For a Brock Lesnar return. And that doesn't, I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan. Obviously, I'm wearing his t-shirt here. People will know that. But I do feel like it was a little bit underwhelming. The way they, this potentially a huge match, even though they've had matches before, but with the dynamic of Heyman, the fact that Roman is a heel, the way Brock Lesnar was celebrating at the end with the fans, I started watching Hulk Hogan. I thought, blimey, he's doing the poses, he's cheering them, he's having a great old time. So now I'm sort of thinking, blimey, are they going to just hand Brock and Mike, and he's going to be the new baby face that they've been looking for here? Because the way things are, I was half expecting them to almost play at grey areas where we kind of don't know what's happening. It's just Paul Heyman. I would have preferred it, if I'm honest, and they still could do this, by the way, because they didn't touch or anything. But I would prefer it if, like, I don't know, Brock was on Raw and Roman is on SmackDown. You got Heyman just working between both shows almost, and then there's some sort of altercation that comes, just a little bit of long-term process with the booking. They haven't planted seeds for this at all. So, what do you make of it, Danny, and the potential of it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I wasn't expecting it to happen straight after the match. I thought they would have let sort of Reigns celebrate, let that all set in first before then, like you said, on a Raw or obviously in this case, SmackDown. Bring Brock out as the sort of next challenger. But I think he's looking great, to be honest. And it is looking like he's going to be the face moving forward. Something that we've not really seen from Brock before in his career. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes and how well that's sort of received as well, because we've not seen that before. But I was just surprised that it happened. But then again, did it happen because of what happened on Friday night? Did they think the end they had to have something that everybody was talking about?
This is what I kind of feel like. Is it reactionary on this one? Because like I say, normally sort of thing that happens on Raw or SmackDown, not at the end of a big pay-per-view like SummerSlam, especially at the end. It was almost like John Cena was an afterthought. Like after this come out, it was like, who cares? Type of thing. It was very much like I surpassed by this. Potentially it's a big match. I'm guessing the speculation is as far down as, say, like a Survivor Series. I know there's big plans in the works for that. If they do long term with this, I could see it having good potential. But I don't just want to see it's going to be on next month, and that's that. It's a bit of a throwaway for me. I think it's just got much more potential than that. Brock Lesnar as a babyface, as you say, different dynamic. Be very interesting to see how comfortable he is again. He was very comfortable in UFC when they gave him a mic, that's for sure. But for some reason in WWE, he never really. I think it's because it's sometimes they like bullet points and all the rest of it, and I think you're always thinking, am I going to go off track? Whereas if they just let him be him, maybe, they get away with a lot more. And of course, they don't always PG him. He's one of the few guys that sort of gets away with it. So for some reason, just a couple of questions and comments been coming in before we end the show. Some saying I hated the ending, says Steve Monk. Yep. Well, there you go. Also, someone's got an interest. He's got a Bobby versus Harry Smith. Harry Smith come back in a dark match very recently, and then someone's like WWE ain't got a clue what to do with him. I did read speculation that at one point he was going to be involved with NXT UK, but because of travel restrictions, that wasn't to be. Whether that's still the case, I don't know. I mean, Harry Smith coming back is a big deal. If Danny is right, we want to see wrestling back in the UK. Harry Smith is one of those names that makes perfect sense for something like that, especially if they were looking at a SummerSlam, given his dad's history and all the rest of it. You would want him involved. But again, they've got to have the right stuff for him. But I don't know exactly where he is. It would be a good opponent for someone like Bobby, but he needs a lot of time to get him in that role. You can't just have him showing up. Then he's also put Walter is better than Bobby, says Steve. It's an interesting argument. To be honest, it's a debate. Yeah, it would be a good match. Then we got Kurt, who's saying SummerSlam dead, NXT UK dead. Amen. Cole to AEW Dynamite Dark. Yeah. I mean, look, people on both sides. This happens used to happen on Power 4 SP3 every week. We have a huge divided, and we have AEW fans and we have WWE fans, and no one, of course, can watch both of them and pick pieces out of each. It's very much one or the other on this show for stuff like that. Brett Thomas, Walter would do well. That hair. His hair. Put that photo back.
Go on, John. Get it back up.
Yeah, there we go. For anybody, kind of looks like it's been stuck on, doesn't it? Like someone's had a
It does
joke.
actually, yeah, like a clip-on ponytail or something, man.
But yeah, he's obviously got very fashionable in his latter years as Brock Lesnar, because he didn't seem to give a damn too much before that. But now he's turned up with a man bun and goodness knows what else. So who knows? I mean, as a baby face, maybe he'll rock some merchandise that we haven't seen him in before. You know, can't imagine what. I mean, you can imagine WWE as a babyface. They'll do like that sort of hairline that kids can wear. And you can just stick it on the back of it. Right, that'll be. We probably gave him a good idea there. We should take some percentage of that one, Danny. Overall, Danny, looking back at SummerSlam as a show, how do you rank that show? It's very difficult because it was so bloody long. But how do you rank that in terms of, obviously, we should point out this is the first event back in like a mass arena, like stadium, was in Vegas. We haven't had that for a long time. Yes, we did have WrestleMania, but it was sort of half sold, and it didn't. Even though there were fans there, because we had to go straight back to the Thunderdome after. It was like, what a come down that was to go straight from that to doing Thunderdome events again. So I feel like this is like WWE's sort of their way of saying, this is our event. This is what we've got to show you. A lot of reactionary stuff from AEW on Friday, I feel. With some of these judgments, but yeah, what did you make of SummerSlam, my friend, overall?
Yeah, there was some hits, more misses than hits, I thought. Overall, of course, Seth and Edge, I think, probably steals it for me as the sort of best match that happened. Most disappointing thing, definitely the Bianca Belair defeat, even though it was great to see Becky back. It was I just don't like that way of them taking the belt. It happened, didn't it, to Kofi Kingston as well, not so long back. Which it's just there's no need for it really. But yeah, there was a lot of things that just filled time as well, which I don't necessarily like. I'd like to see time being used as a way of developing things rather than we're just putting this on now just to waste their time. But yeah, I felt it was a bit of a sort of reset as well with things. Obviously, new champions, people coming back. It's going to be interesting to see what this next sort of few months is going to bring. But generally, yeah, I probably wouldn't go back to watch many things from the event. But overall, I'd maybe give it 6 out of 10.
Fair score. I think I'm exactly the same as you on terms of more misses than hits, and I feel like one of the big ones, as you say, is Bianca Belair. I do kind of feel like, they've dropped the ball massively on her. Even if they have her coming back winning the title, this will be a bit of a dent, I feel. It'll take a while longer now to get her out of that. The only other thing to this was just the pacing of the night. I think it was just like they had, like say, too many stupid moments. I don't know what the hell the Xavier Wood. I don't know why they had to have that out in the ring, or it wasn't something they could have just come up with backstage. Like the fans were not reacting to any of that stuff and the Nakamura stuff. It was just weird to have things like that going on half the time. But some of the highlights, I certainly enjoyed the Edge Brood part of it. That probably is something I'd go back and watch. I'm sure if they've got that on WWE YouTube, I would love to know the number on that, because that will probably be one of the more watched things for that generation of fans who loved the Attitude Era, of course. And yeah, I mean, overall, it's hard to score. It was so long. I think, obviously, last year I was trying to think back to that, and that felt even longer because we was in the Thunderdome. I'll probably go a little bit below you on 5 out of 10 for me, just one shy there from yours. But yeah, it was long. It was very long, and we got Takeover tonight, so I'm thinking about that in the back of my mind as well. So yeah, but no, it should be very good and interesting to see. Danny, before you go, my friend, I'm going to ask you about what you think the whole dynamic now between obviously two companies like AEW and WWE. Lots of people saying this is it. AEW, they're going to make the impact. They've got CM Punk, they've got Brian Danielson coming in very soon. We're expecting, and who knows who else. Where do you see that? And do you think that AEW, how far behind are they to play catch up, and how much of a threat are they to WWE right now where we are?
Yeah, I mean, obviously from a sort of talent perspective and things of that nature, I think they're sort of getting there now, in terms of having that sort of star power to bring in fans from the past, obviously with CM Punk. During his time with WWE, especially after the pipe bomb, he brought back fans that weren't reaching anymore, and he drew them back in. But yeah, I'm interested to see where they go, because for me, they are still very much wrestling focused, where obviously WWE is a bit more broader in terms of the entertainment spectrum. But I still think there's a lot of catching up to do sort of off screen, sort of globally as well. I know they've just done some recent TV deals in India, which is great, and other things there. But still there's a lot of things still outside of that to work on, but on screen, in terms of star power, there's going to certainly be more eyes on that moving forward. I don't know if it's been released yet. We know the ratings from Rampage as of yet. Do we know how many viewers
I don't think we do yet. We've heard early indications that I can't remember what the number was, but it was high. The Brett Thomas believes that obviously Raw's going to be bigger because Logan Paul was on it. And they're looking at his pulling power at the moment. But yeah, I don't know officially what it is at this time. So I'm guessing we're going to have to wait and see. But it should be high, because I think even WWE curious fans would have switched in to see CM Punk personally, especially that first night. But more interested to see how it does continuing on the weeks, what they have him doing, really, if I'm honest. I'm a bit like you. I think that it's almost, if I'm being realistic, in terms of what we see on television, they're very close. I mean, very equal, what we see on television product. But in terms of business and global marketing, I'd say AEW is probably about 10, 15 years behind WWE, because you got to understand, you only got to look at YouTube WWE, how many hits they have to like AEW a month, and just little things like that, how global WWE is humongously much greater. So things like that, business, and it's not knocking AEW, because they are doing good stuff, but they're a new company, they're a growing company, and they're going to make mistakes before they get everything right. But they are certainly, depending on what sort of brand of wrestling you like, they certainly have it there. I've been very surprised with how good their pay-per-views have been doing. I think WWE would have been as well, because I think WWE thought the pay-per-view business was gone, especially when they made the network. I think they thought that market was non-existent, but AEW have proven less is more, and with those pay-per-views that they do put on, they do good numbers. So it's something that's growing. It's it's not in the realm of boxing level, but it's getting there. It's certainly a lot more than what TNA used to do back in the day. That is miles more. So I think in terms of what they're doing, I do think it's there. I think that with the likes of CM Punk there, it will definitely help. Some of the guys they've signed, like Christian, and I know people harp on like, why have they got them in? The only thing I agree with is they shouldn't always overhype half the people they get in, because then that always leads to disappointment regardless. But the reason they've got those guys there is, I do believe that even though AEW say they are wrestling, I also think that some of those guys they're signing from WWE are kind of teaching a lot of the younger guys in AEW how to work in front of the television a bit more, how to do those kind of matches, as opposed to the sort of quote-unquote indie type matches that we get all the time. And that's not to say that that doesn't work. It does, but on a weekly television basis. And I think they're finding that out now. It's a lot harder to keep that momentum up, because television, man, the more of it you have, the more hours you got to fill. So it can be very hard. And I always say, like, New Japan style, because they don't have weekly television, it's always like less is more with them. Once you get to a card, it's like, wow, we're here. and that's all we're going to focus. All they have is press conferences. They build it up on social media, but they always get the same turnout. So there's something to be said for that. But in the US and, of course, this side of the pond, we're all about weekly television and producing a weekly show like that. So it's television money, it's adverts, big business. But I do feel 10, 15 years behind in terms of business. But we'll see where that goes. Also, Danny, are you a big CM Punk fan in general? Was you a big Punk fan? Like when he left?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I had a couple of his T-shirts, definitely, back in the day there. But yeah, it was great to see him back. I was obviously sad when he retired and everything there, and just like everybody else, I've been waiting for the day when he would return. That we probably knew deep down there would be a day eventually. Now AEW have come along and I'm guessing they've sort of proved to him that this is their way of doing things and he can fit into that. So I'm happy to see him back.
Yeah, like the stars have aligned in that agreement. Well, want to say a massive thank you to you, Danny, for taking time out to come on and talk about SummerSlam. I know you're as tired as anyone, and we've got to go through it again tonight. But gives us a chance, Danny. Let us know where else we can find you and where else you're working at and the other stuff you're writing for, my friend.
Oh gosh, I've not done this before. Right, okay. I'll copy what Mad Dog
put him on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah, the Twitter at DannyWall11, Instagram.
I've got it on the bottom there.
Have you got them on there, have you?
I have. They're running across the scroll at the bottom of the screen. And places we can find your work at, Danny. Obviously, Sportseeda Wrestling.
Yeah, Sportseeda Wrestling got stuff going out there pretty much every day. A lot of features, a lot of articles every week, and also some bits as well with Daily DDT. Nice. glad to be getting involved and glad to be sort of getting the sort of love back that I thought I'd lost a few months ago. So very, very happy and can't wait to see
Don't speak too soon. Absolutely. And before I go, gives us a chance to just say that tonight the Games and Graps pre-show before the pre-show is back tonight from 8 p.m. They'll be here with all the guys talking everything but wrestling after time because normally talk about old TV shows like London's Burning come up in conversation so you can imagine where that goes to. But it's a fun time, but it also shows where wrestling fans' minds at if they're not that bothered about SummerSlam preview. So go and check that out. Anything and everything on that show, you'll hear it all on there. But massive thanks, Danny, for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant. Just before I go, Carl Rogers. Hi, Danny. Hi, John. How you doing, Carl? Hope you're well. I'm assuming you watched the show as well. Probably all knackered like we are, but like I say, I don't know if Saturday's staying with WWE, but I'm hopeful that they might stick with it. I know there was a thing because UFC is in Vegas this weekend, and I believe they've got Sunday night at Vegas, and that's why they turned it over. But I would please just go with Saturdays. Would be a real blessing for us over here, I feel. But we'll see how it goes. But thank you very much, Danny, for coming on and taking time out. It's been a real pleasure to have you, buddy.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you for having me on, John. And look forward to seeing you soon. Yeah, absolutely. See you later, everyone, and enjoy tonight's NXT Takeover. We'll see you.